After you complete the main story in a LEGO game, you are always left feeling like there's so much more to do. More characters to unlock, extras to find, and collectibles to collect. And all of the extra content doesn't feel like it's here to make you squeeze more hours out of the game. Going back and replaying these games is a very rewarding experience. But the best way to make sure you experience every bit of content this game has to offer is by going for 100%. I mean, they make it really hard not to, by tracking how many collectibles you need whenever you pause the game, hiding tons of secrets in the levels, and always tracking what percentage of the game you have complete. So today, I'm going to continue my journey of 100% completing and reviewing every single LEGO video game. And for people who are new to the series, this is the second part to a 5-part series. But don't worry, you can watch these in any order. I just chose to cover them in order of release. But let's get things started with LEGO Indiana Jones 2 is a sequel to the first LEGO Indiana Jones game. It released on November 17th, 2009, and goes through the first 4 Indiana Jones films. Including the first 3 Indiana Jones films is kind of odd, since the first game already had those, but they said they would feature new brawling and vehicle levels. In March of 2009, the game was leaked during its early stages of production. A CV of one of the animators showed that they had worked on LEGO Harry Potter and LEGO Indiana Jones 2, The Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Their credits aren't included in the final game, so they might have quit or been fired. Official development happened around August and September of 2009, where they burned through 13 Xbox 360 power packs and 3 TVs. 4 non-rechargeable batteries exploded due to someone trying to recharge them, and they spent 35,000 hours playtesting the game. On June 23rd, the game would be officially revealed at E3. People got to play the game, but very little gameplay of it surfaced online, and no one really shared their thoughts on the game. I loved this game as a kid, but I'm kind of uncertain about how it'll hold up. While the game did great commercial-wise, it did not sit well with critics. So let's check it out. Once you start the game up, you are brought to a room full of wooden crates. You can open them to reveal a box that is similar to the 2008 LEGO Indiana Jones boxes. The first one is for the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull Part 1, but after you beat the first level, you unlock the previous films. And as you progress even more, you unlock Crystal Skull Part 2 and 3, super bonus levels, and Curator. So there are a total of 6 different stories in this game. This approach is very weird, but I guess I can start by talking about the levels. These are some of the most disappointing levels I've ever seen. Like, the first level is okay. You start off by doing some platforming and puzzle solving so Indy and Matt can make their way over boxes. Then you have to move vehicles on panels so you can make your way to the boss. And finally, finish him in a decently cool boss fight where you have to tie him up so he can be burnt by a rocket. This first level is one of the only levels where you are in different set pieces. When you're in the area with all the crates, you just move right. The camera being as far away as possible does not help. It makes you feel like you're walking in a straight line. Then when you're in the room with the rocket, it can be beaten in just a few seconds. Like, it's a cool looking area with unique mechanics, but that's all it is. And as you play through each story, you'll be lucky to find a level like that again. Every damn level in this game takes place in one room, and you'll be doing either one of 4 things: fighting endless waves of enemies until the level ends, riding vehicles to destroy other vehicles, doing small puzzles, or fighting a boss. Most of these levels are insanely forgettable and over within a few seconds. Each film is made up of 5 mini levels, so you can basically fly right through the whole entire story mode of this game. The levels where you just beat up enemies until it ends are not satisfying. It always shocked me when the level would just all of a sudden end. The puzzle levels are pretty fun because the game has some pretty cool mechanics, but they just don't leave that big of an impression on me. It feels weird that the puzzles and combat are basically split into their own levels, and makes most levels feel completely unbalanced. It doesn't help that every level takes place in one area and the camera is exactly the same in all of them. You're so far away from the action, and most of the time you can see everything there is to do in the level at the very start. Nothing is ever exciting or keeping you on your toes. Each story feels like the last one, and what makes that even worse are the vehicle and boss battle levels. The vehicle levels take place in these huge open environments. You start off with one vehicle, but as you destroy more waves of cars, you'll be able to get better cars to take down harder enemies. Most of the time you'll want to do this because tougher cars get introduced, and you can only destroy them with a certain vehicle. Occasionally on some vehicle levels, you'll have to use a power-up to help you get over a jump, but that's as deep as it gets. These levels are so boring, and depending on how well you know them, can take ages to complete. You simply just keep crashing into vehicles until the level ends, and you'll have to do this once for every single story. It gets old very quickly. The only difference in every vehicle level is the setting and the vehicles you'll be driving in them. I absolutely hate these levels. Not only am I not a fan of vehicle levels in LEGO games, but these are just so freaking boring. They all feel the same and there's nothing creative creative about them. Unfortunately, the levels can't catch a break because the boss battle levels are an absolute joke. Well, there are some good ones, like the one where you have to whip an enemy into traps, but most of the final boss fights are awful. There are all these huge monsters that never appeared in the film. Like, you know the intense scene in The Last Crusade where Indy has to drink from the right cup? Well, now instead you get to fight a tornado monster. That's basically the exact same boss from Crystal Skull Part 3. None of the boss fights feel creative or challenging. Most of the time it just leaves me in disbelief on how inaccurate it is to the film. Like, this isn't a cute change to make it more kid-friendly. Instead, it was probably changed to deal with working on 6 stories all at once. I don't think they should have included the first 3 films in this game. They all feel insanely rushed, and you can beat every single one of them in like 10 minutes. Like, oh, it's kinda cool to play through events you didn't go through from the last game, but most of the time they break that rule. Like, the first level in the first movie is pretty much the same to the second level in the first movie from the previous game. Except this time, you're missing a good 80% of the level after the boss fight is done. Like, it basically just feels like they redid some levels, but just made them way worse. I will say I do like how the cutscenes can connect to the ones from the first game without it messing up all the continuity. When it comes to the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull, the level is split into 3 parts, but then again, these levels go by insanely quickly. I would have much rather them have these levels be similar to the ones in the first game, and split them up into like 12 levels. These levels are so short, and they don't even have mini-kits in them. You only have to fill the stud meter and then never have to worry about playing the level again. So there is no free play option in these levels. If you do decide to go back to the levels again, you'll be given 2 options: replay story or treasure mode. Treasure mode essentially just gives you one giant puzzle to solve with characters you have unlocked. For solving this, you are given 1 mini kit and that's it. I do like how the setting will look a bit different, but this just feels lame when compared to finding secrets in previous LEGO games. The puzzles can sometimes be fun and satisfying to solve, but just like the normal levels, they are really forgettable. Now there's one more type of level you'll be doing in each story mode, and that's a bonus level. Bonus levels are hidden throughout each story's hub, and there are 5 of them in each story. And to be honest, I kind of like these. In these levels, you'll be given 2 unique characters and doing lots of different challenges. These involve lots of puzzles and platforming, and they can be quite fun. Once you complete one, you are given a mini kit. But the main issue I have with these levels are the setting. All of them take place in the same setting, and have the same overall aesthetic. That's because these levels are made using the new level creator. I guess it's just to show off what you could be creating with it, but I'll never be able to tell the difference between any of these levels. Overall, I guess this game could be giving you 15 levels per story, but it doesn't really matter when every single level is forgettable. This game did introduce some new mechanics, some of them good and some of them annoying. Indy's whip is completely revamped. Now he can tie up enemies and carry them. You can even do this with your AI partner. You can also do this glitch where you can just chuck your AI partner and it's amazing. But the whip is mostly used for combat and platforming, but it can sometimes be used to solve some unique puzzles, like having to tie up an enemy to set them on a switch. You can now aim using pretty much any item, which is useful for getting accurate shots with guns. This is a great feature that takes LEGO Batman's aiming and evolves it. And now it's been in every single LEGO game since. And now the annoying mechanic I just have to mention is the fire. On some levels you'll need to clear fire out of your way. The only way you can do that is by throwing water bottles at it. It's just very tedious because most of the time they'll miss and you'll have to go back and get another one. But most mechanics in this game carry over from the last one, which is good because I love a lot of the stuff from the first game. Something I noticed while playing is how exaggerated the animations are in this game. Like just jumping with a character and watching their body stretch, or punching someone and watching their hat spin off their head. It feels like it's ripped right from a cartoon and gives this game its own unique style. I love how wacky the animations are in this game. Just it's too bad I'm too far away from the characters to actually appreciate most of them. Now it's finally time to discuss the biggest change in this game, the hub worlds. Basically, the levels are as bad as they are because now we get 6 pretty big hub worlds to explore. After each level you'll be brought back here, and honestly, I do quite like these. Every hub is this strange mix-up of locations from the film it's based off of, but each location is captured well enough to make it feel like it's still being represented. In these hubs, you can unlock new characters, unlock and ride vehicles, and find red bricks. You'll basically be doing the same thing in every hub, but every single one of them feel different and stand out on their own. They have a rewarding progression system. Like, you start off in this hub with only 2 characters, but as you unlock more characters and vehicles, you can explore more and unlock new things. It's fun just experimenting to unlock new things, and exploring to find secrets in new locations. Flying vehicles are a first in this game, and they control pretty well. I liked pulling off glitches using them. I love how to unlock something in the first film, you must destroy 10 antennas, which is a reference to the actual film. During the filming of the scene on Salah's Terrace, 350 television antennas had to be removed to make this area look like it was in the 1930s. Something that I find very strange is you can't mix and match these characters. Characters from the first film can only be played in the first film hub. This game talks about having 80-something characters, but they're all split up, which is insanely lame. I understand why though. it would completely screw up with the pacing of another hub once you have 100% completed one of them, because you could just use those characters and get to the areas of the hub that you haven't unlocked yet, but I'm sure they could have found some type of workaround. Overall, the hub worlds are pretty good, but the levels honestly just bring the whole game down. Now, it's time to talk about what I need for 100% completion. In each story, there are 5 levels to complete. There are 6 stories, so 30 levels. There are also 5 treasure levels and 5 bonus levels in each story, so that adds 60 more levels, making it 90 levels in total, and on each one of these you have to fill the stud meter. In every treasure or bonus level, there is 1 mini-kit to collect, so there are 10 mini-kits per story, and 60 of them in total. In every hub, there are 3 red bricks to collect, so unlocking and purchasing all 18 of them is required for 100%. Also, purchasing all 82 characters and 42 vehicles is required, but I'll just include them on the character list to make things easier, so 124 characters. The last thing you'll need to complete are all 6 super bonus levels, every creator mode tutorial, and purchasing everything in creator mode. And that's everything you need for 100% completion. I'll start off with the levels since they are quite easy. I didn't have to replay most of them because I made sure to fill the stud meter in every level. The bonus levels and treasure levels are all pretty straightforward as well. The treasure levels only got annoying because you'll need 2 specific characters to complete it, and you won't know who those characters are until you enter the level. So if you don't have them, you'll need to leave the level and go searching around the whole map for that specific character. But overall, the levels were all mindless, and there isn't anything to collect. You're basically just beating the levels as told. Going through the hub world and unlocking everything was quite fun. You can only unlock certain characters and vehicles by going out and trying new things, like shoveling a plane out of snow or doing a race to unlock a new character. Buying all of them was pretty easy, because in every level it saves your stud count, even if you save and exit, so I took advantage of that. Unlocking the red bricks is pretty much the same in each hub world. You go around and do 10 specific things on 3 different objects. The red bricks in this game are color coded depending on what they are. Red ones are stud multipliers, blue ones are helpful ones, and green ones are the more random and silly stuff. I wish they still did stuff like this. It's really useful to know what type of red brick you're going to unlock. Also, this game is one of the only LEGO games to have a stud multiplier that's an odd number. 3 times stud multiplier. The only other LEGO game to have an odd stud multiplier, to my knowledge, is LEGO Ninjago Shadows of Ronin, which had a 5 times stud multiplier. But buying everything was easy and a lot of fun. Once you find all 10 mini-kits in a hub world, you unlock a super build, which brings you to the super bonus level. These are all pretty much the same to normal bonus levels, just this time you have to collect 1 million studs. Now the last thing that is required for 100% is the creator mode tutorial levels. These levels are all simple and over within a few seconds. Once you finish all of those, you just have to buy everything as each character. My thoughts on all of the create your own whatever stuff are fine. I like that you can create your own level, but it felt like they had to sacrifice making good normal levels to do that. And you can't even share them, so what's the point? They have this weird create your own adventure mode. You just choose 5 levels from the story, then pick 2 characters to go with you and play through that story. It's kinda pointless, but I guess you can make your own little movies out of this, which I did like as a kid. Your characters will even be in the cutscenes. But yeah, I have 100% completed LEGO Indiana Jones 2. What a disappointing sequel. There's just so many weird quirks in this game that makes me feel like this game was directionless. Like they saw an idea and just went with it, without thinking how it would affect anything else. This isn't a bad game, far from it. Just, instead of evolving the LEGO game formula, this game evolves it in some ways, but sets it back in others. Having a huge hub with lots to do is nice, but the levels just make the story mode a mess. Honestly, the DS version of this game is far better. It has an open world hub, but only has the 4th film, and the levels are the same style as the first game. So if you want to play LEGO Indiana Jones 2, I would recommend that version. It's also available on the PSP, but now it's time to move on. LEGO Harry Potter Years 1 through 4 released on June 25th, 2010, and is based on the first 4 Harry Potter films. This series felt like a perfect pick to get a LEGO game, and I'm glad they decided to only cover years 1 through 4. When this game released, they were only up to the 6th film, and it makes sense to keep the younger years separated from the darker ones. But I loved Harry Potter as a kid, and it probably was my favorite LEGO game for a while. Also, thanks to fellow YouTuber BD1P for 100% completing this game with me. Highly recommend checking out his channel. But now let's start the game. This game starts right up with a pretty long cutscene. And I swear, these cutscenes just keep getting better and better. But once that is over, we are dropped right into the first level. We play as Harry and Hagrid and have to visit different shops in Diagon Alley. and I really like this first level. It's a very different and more laid back approach compared to other LEGO video games. Usually you have an action-packed and intense opening. Instead you get a very chill experience, as Hagrid helps Harry get introduced to the wizarding world. The level has a few obstacles in your way, like Hagrid having to lift up Harry so he can unlock a door, or having to build a potion to get rid of some debris, but things are far more straightforward when compared to other LEGO games. There isn't a constant swarm of enemies to fight, or puzzles that'll make you think. It's a very low-key introduction to all the mechanics, and is a very memorable level. The best part of this level is definitely how Harry can just wave at anyone he sees. But after that level, and 3 minutes worth of cutscenes, you arrive at Hogwarts and are placed in the hub, which is a very important part to this game. The story will progress not only through the levels, but also in the hub. These are combined to make for a pretty great story mode. After each level, you'll have to show up to multiple classes or do random events until you can progress to the next level. There are loads of cutscenes in between all of these, making this game feel very story-driven. It definitely makes this game stand out a ton when compared to other LEGO games. Harry Potter isn't really an action franchise. They are more focused on world building and storytelling, and how they chose to tell the story in this game really helps show that, and makes it stand out. As you progress further through the story, characters will unlock more spells and abilities, and I love this. It gives you this sense of accomplishment when you learn a new spell, but is overall a nice progression system. Like, you can use these new abilities to access areas you previously couldn't in the hub. I like how as you progress further, you're able to do more of these characters. Like I said, the hub world levels are tied together, you can't really do one without the other, but I still think it's fair to judge these two things as their own. So I'll start off with the levels. As mentioned, I really do enjoy the first level, and I think it works really well as an introduction to the game, but unfortunately, the rest of the levels in this game are all just kind of mediocre. Let's start off with what you're actually doing in the levels. Instead of having enemies to fight or puzzles to keep you busy, this game relies on the same couple of mechanics. You have stuff that don't rely on spells, like potion making and mandrake screaming. Potion making is fun at first, but they just rely on it way too much. You have to find 3 items in an area and put them in the cauldron. That cauldron can give you multiple effects, like super strength, invisibility, or turning you old. I like the mechanic and it's definitely creative, but you get kind of tired of it when basically every level relies on it. It's not really difficult or challenging. I'm just going around every corner in a room until I find an item. Mandrake screaming is okay as well. You have to find earmuffs so you can grab the mandrake and use it to break glass or just put it up. My feelings on this are exactly the same as a potion mechanic. It's not really all that engaging. But at the end of the day, these things are okay and feel unique to Harry Potter. The big new mechanic in this game is all of the new things you can do with your wand. I feel like the wand innovates this game in a lot of ways, but I also feel like it holds this game back as well. Like, you're only going to have a few spells for the first few levels. So those early levels really rely on the use of the same spells over and over again. And even when you progress further in the story and have more spells to use, the game doesn't have you combining different spells in creative ways. You feel like you could do so many different things with these spells, but that never happens, and it gets to the point where you just go into every level and mindlessly play it. Most of the time, things don't require any specific spell. You just have to zap it and something will happen. And that's a good way to describe everything that happens in this game. Just do thing until something happens. None of it feels like it was put together in a clever way. Like, for example, I zap this random bush, it drops a speaker, I then lift that speaker up and attach it to this pole. It plays a loud noise, waking 2 sleeping students up, and once they move, I can zap the suitcase, which reveals a piece for the potion I have to craft. And unfortunately, that's how most of this game plays out, and it gets old very quickly. Like, you have so many spells and new mechanics that could make for some awesome puzzles. But instead, I can explain what each spell is used for in a couple of words. Purple spell lets you build Lego objects, and sometimes you'll need to put together things. White spell gets rid of plants. Blue spell defeats pixies. Yellow spell defeats bogarts. White spell defeats Dementors. Orange spell destroys silver Lego objects. And the red and green spells are a bit different. The red spells are kind of your fun spells, like turning someone into an animal or making them bald, but the green spells can be all kinds of different things. The most common one is letting certain characters control their pets or turning them into an animal, but it can also be Harry's invisibility cloak and the killing curse. And with all of these spells, they can barely make the levels engaging. The most fun I had with them was lifting stuff up to build my own Lego objects. Also, I hate how if I want to build stuff, I have to have a certain spell equipped, or if I want to shoot from a certain spell, I have to press a different button. But overall, the basic mechanics in the level aren't really that fun, and make every level feel like you're zapping things until something happens. I understand that there isn't any action in the films, but I feel like there could have been a better way to do these levels. Like, you could have focused way more on making fun and engaging puzzles. There are some fun puzzles where you have to work together with your co-op partner. Why couldn't you have done more of those? Instead, most levels are do thing until something happens or a boss fight, and all the boss fights are forgettable in this game. Sure, the levels in this game feel very different from every LEGO game before it, but that's a poor excuse for making these levels just so unfun. But it's not only poorly utilized mechanics that bring these levels down. The characters and settings make things a whole lot worse. Characters in this game aren't really unique, and they can't be because of the new spell system, which is fine, but for some reason this game decided to stuff the character roster with tons and tons of characters that you'll probably never play as. Just to name a few of them, you have boy, girl, vocalist, a bus driver, and oh, how could I forget the milkman? Like, this character roster is filled with so much fluff, and it gets worse when you think about all the variations of the main characters, just in different sweaters. Not to mention the character designs in this game are just so ugly. Most of the characters barely look like their film counterparts. Just thinking of Cat Hermione gives me nightmares. To be fair, that's not really TT Games' fault. At the time of this game's release, this was just what the current wave of Harry Potter sets looked like. So you're trying to tell me you have all of these characters in this game, and pretty much 80% of them do the same thing, while the rest of them are just basically worthless. Why even have that many characters at all then? Like, I know you want to advertise a huge character roster, but bigger doesn't always mean better. For example, look at LEGO Batman's character roster. That game barely has any characters, but the characters they do have all feel worthwhile. What I'm saying is, when you get to the point where you're making a milkman a playable character, that's when it's time to rethink what you're doing. But hey, now it's time to complain about the locations of the levels, because this just really annoys me. Almost every single level in this game will reuse a location from another level, or when they get really desperate, they'll reuse a location from the hub world. Like, in the first film, you have 2 levels taking place in the Quidditch area. In the second film, you have 3 levels taking place in the same goddamn bathroom. To be honest, looking back at the levels, this is only really a problem throughout the first 2 films. In the third and fourth, I don't think they repeat or reuse anything, and probably make for some of the best levels in the game because you'll have most of the spells unlocked. Well, if you ignore the fact there's another bathroom level in the fourth film. But even if that being said, none of those levels are memorable. Maybe other than the maze level. I think that's a good level. But I hate how you'll see the same things over and over again in the levels, or when they just rip out an area from the hub world and turn it into a level. It's just really disappointing, honestly. But yeah, I think I've talked way too much about the levels. Overall, the levels and new mechanics are mediocre, which really sucks. I feel like they had this new idea to make everything unique, which is great, but it ended up giving us some of the most boring and forgettable levels. None of these are really awful, or even bad. They're just so forgettable. I think most people playing through the story mode would have a good time, but trying to replay them again kind of showed me how flawed they are. But I do have an idea on why these levels are the way they are, and that's because of the hub world. The levels might be disappointing, but everything else surrounding them are not, and are probably some of my favorite parts about this game. In the story mode, it's really refreshing to come back here before tackling another level. You can continue to the next objective, or just mess around and explore. There are so many students and teachers walking around, making it feel like I lived in school. I love how depending on where you're at in the story mode, the environments will be different. Like having Christmas hats on during Christmas time, or seeing spiders walking around the school. I like the classes a lot. They're a great excuse to let you unlock a new spell, and the lesson will work as a tutorial for the new spell you just unlocked. There are so many secrets to find, and honestly, it's just like a lot of fun exploring the massive hub world. It's pretty easy to find where you need to go next, just follow the ghost and he'll lead the way to where you're supposed to be. There are so many memorable locations to go through, and so many things to go find and explore. Sure, the layout of Hogwarts is kind of confusing and doesn't really make sense, but it's a lot of fun unlocking a new room and seeing what secrets you can find. This is when LEGO games started to feel a bit surreal. Like, some of the stuff you do in the hub is just so odd, but I love it. Like, they have this area where they have this tiny Lego man, and more tiny Lego men come out of him. And for some reason, shooting all 3 of them give you Mr. Mason. But this combined with the levels make for a pretty good story mode, which is surprising because the levels are all disappointing. But I had a lot of fun with it overall, and I can see why I did as a kid as well. It just lets you go and do whatever you want. It truly gives you so much freedom. It makes you feel like you're a student at Hogwarts, and every year unlocking new things and doing more stuff. But now it's time for me to track down everything I need for 100% completion. So there are 24 levels in this game, and in each level you have to fill the stud meter, find a student in peril, unlock 3 characters, and find all 4 Hogwarts crest pieces. The crest pieces are essentially just mini-kits, so that's 4 mini-kits per level, meaning there are 96 mini-kits to collect. In the hub world, you'll find red bricks, gold bricks, character tokens, and more students in perils. In total, there are 20 red bricks, 200 gold bricks, 167 characters, and 50 students in peril. You will also have to purchase every single character, red brick, and spell. The last thing you'll need for 100% is to beat all of the bonus levels. I'll start off with the levels, and yeah, collecting everything in them was insanely boring. Not only are these levels just not very fun, but there are no secret areas. And most of the time to get a mini kit, you'll have to interact or destroy an object a set amount of times. like go destroy 10 clams in this level or interact with 4 flags in this one. It's such a lazy way of adding replayability. Nothing is cleverly hidden, and it doesn't feel rewarding going back and exploring. Unlocking characters and finding students apparel wasn't fun either. It just has you zapping or interacting with every little thing on the level, and it gets so boring. It honestly ruins a lot of the fun I get from playing free play, because if there aren't any cool secrets to find in these levels, then they are pretty much pointless to replay unless you're going for 100%. I'm glad I was playing with someone else while doing this because it made things a bit more bearable. Overall, getting 100% in the levels just isn't fun, and because of how short the levels are, we were able to 100% them in just one day. Now, getting 100% in the hub world is actually really fun. You'll get tasks with lots of different puzzles and challenges, and these always feel rewarding to solve. It's really addicting going from room to room and finding everything in it. There are loads of secret rooms to find as well, and the pacing for it is all pretty great. It only really got annoying when trying to figure out what we had left in each room, or just trying to navigate Hogwarts in general. There is no way to track everything in the hub world, which can get very annoying. But collecting everything in the hub world did not take long at all, and it's really fun. We are also able to do that all in one day as well. That just left us with buying everything, and yet again, it was not hard at all. The score multipliers are insanely cheap in this game, with 10 times only costing 1 million studs, so buying everything was really easy. The only annoying part was having to scroll through and buy every character, because it's really slow. I do think the progression was a bit too fast, but it's not that big of a deal. Now I'm left with playing all the bonus levels, and these are fine. They're pretty similar to LEGO Indiana Jones 2's bonus levels, just a room made using the level creator where you have to solve puzzles and do platforming. There are 10 of them, and none of them really stand out. And now that all of that is complete, we unlocked an extra bonus level. In this one, we get to play as Voldemort and a Death Eater, and have to destroy London until we collect 1 million studs. This one is okay, there isn't any cool secrets to find, and throughout the whole level you're just zapping things. Also, on multiplayer, the level is pretty buggy because you have to share a camera, but once that is complete, we have finally 100% completed LEGO Harry Potter Years 1 through 4. And the reward for 100% completion is Voldemort, which is honestly pretty disappointing, but at least it's something. Overall, this game is just a mixed bag. There are so many great things about this game, but at the same time, there is just as many bad things. It's surprising that a game with so much new stuff in it makes for a really messy and disappointing experience. I think the levels are only bad because they spent all of their time on the hub world, but I can understand that, because the Harry Potter franchise is very different from the games they normally make, and it's their first LEGO game with a massive hub world. Hopefully in the future, they can find a way to balance the two out. It sucks playing this game today and finding out that one of my favorite games from my childhood isn't as good as I remembered it. Despite how much I criticize this game, I can never really dislike it. But I think I finally understand why a lot of people find this game disappointing. With all that being said, I do really recommend this game though, and it's still a very important title in TT's LEGO game history. But it is now time to move on. LEGO Star Wars 3 released on March 22nd, 2011, and is based off the first 2 seasons of Star Wars The Clone Wars. Despite this being the 4th LEGO Star Wars game, TT chose to call it LEGO Star Wars 3, and it makes even less sense when you think about it. This game technically takes place before LEGO Star Wars 2, and in between episodes 2 and 3 in the first game. Calling this game LEGO Star Wars 3 just sounds dumb. You could have named the game LEGO Star Wars The Clone Wars. Even as a kid, I was confused about the name, because I didn't even know the first 2 LEGO Star Wars games were a thing. So for me, this was the sequel to the complete saga, but it was called LEGO Star Wars 3. I don't know, it's just really confusing. It's not that big of a deal, it just really bothers me. But I should just shut up and actually start talking about the game. This game drops you right into the first level, which is actually not based off the Clone Wars TV show. Instead, they chose to depict the Geonosis battle from episode 2. And I don't care if this is in the show or not, but god damn, this is a great level and an amazing introduction to the game. You start off tied up to poles and have to free yourself and the others. After that, you have to take down 2 of the creatures and can even mount some of them. Also, since they all lost their weapons, the Jedi must fight using their force, and Padme is stuck using a chain. I love the nice detail, and it actually makes you feel a bit defenseless. Once you are given all your weapons back, you have to take down the final creature with loads of droids filling up the arena. This feels like a massive battle. It was mind-blowing to me as a kid seeing how many enemies they could have on the screen all at once. It really helps this feel like an epic battle, and just shows how far they've improved since the last LEGO Star Wars game. The level ends with a battle against Jango Fett and helping other Jedi board the escape ships. You may not do a whole lot in this level, but it is really action-packed and pulls you into the game. Overall, I would describe the whole story mode in this game to be just okay. There are a lot of really good levels in this game, but also just as many boring ones. After the beginning level, you are given 3 different story options to choose from: Ventress, Count Dooku, and General Grievous. You can play these in any order you want. Just the way it's presented makes it feel like there's a lot more to it. These are simply just 3 different story modes, like how in the first LEGO Star Wars game you had 3 different films to play through. The main issue I have with these is that a lot of them feel completely unbalanced. One story mode will have some great levels back to back, but then you take a look at General Grievous's, and you play 4 battle mode missions back to back. But let's talk about the levels in more detail. There are 3 different types of them: the more traditional levels, spaceship levels, and battle levels. The normal levels in this game can range from really good to just forgettable. When levels are good, they have a good mix of combats, platforming, and puzzle solving. And I feel like there are a few levels in this game that do it well. Like the level Destroy Malevolence is a great example. The level starts in a falling apart spaceship. Everything is on fire and you have to fight loads of droids. The camera being right behind you helps make this whole thing more exciting. In the next section you have lots of platforming and puzzle solving using train carts. The camera is really far away, so you have lots of room to see what's going on. Then you meet with Padme and C-3PO, but you get split up. This utilizes one of the new features of this game, Scene Swap, which I will talk about in more detail later. But you're occasionally switching between 2 different parties of characters, utilizing all their abilities to help out the other party. And I love this part of the level. It really keeps you engaged and you get a ton of different puzzles to solve. It is a pretty long section, but after that, one set of characters is in the control room trying to stop the spaceship, while the other is having the battle with General Grievous. Honestly, the scene swap works really well here, and they show you 2 great ways to utilize it in this level. You could have it where they're both solving puzzles to help each other progress, or have them both doing their own intense action sequence. But yeah, that's the end of the level. Just so much happens in that one level, and it balances everything really well. Every character is utilized well, and you're doing lots of different things. Also, the constant setting and camera change helps a lot to make things feel more dynamic. But while every story has at least one level like that, I feel like every other level in that story mode will just be really forgettable. I don't know, maybe it's because I don't have a strong connection to the Clone Wars series, or because I'm not really a Star Wars fan these days, but I just don't really care for a lot of these levels. The settings for a lot of them just don't do anything for me, and most levels will rely on one gimmick to carry it throughout the whole level. Like a level where you have to command troops to shoot gold and silver LEGO objects. It's a fun mechanic, sure, but not fun enough to do it throughout the whole entire level. Or the scene swap levels. Sometimes it can be fun, but most of the time it just makes the level a lot longer than it needs to be. There are a lot of levels that just don't need to have this feature. Most of the time you're just beating a section as one set of characters, then going to the other party of characters and beating that section. I think it's a cool idea, but they barely utilize it in creative ways. A lot of the levels just feel the same for me, and I never really catch myself wanting to replay any of them. A lot of people might think I don't enjoy these levels because I'm not a huge fan of the show, but I don't know, there's just something about these levels that I find really boring. I think the main issue is there's nothing memorable or remarkable about any of them. The game's ugly color palette doesn't really help all that much either. I will say the lighting and all that looks amazing in this game thanks to the new engine they are using, but all the colors just look so washed out. I feel like most of the time the levels take place in gray and boring environments. I also hate the choice to have some things be non-LEGO or a mix of LEGO and realistic stuff. Like, sometimes spaceships will not be LEGO at all and it just kind of throws me off. But the worst part is definitely when it comes to the creatures. They are this gross, like, LEGO/non-LEGO hybrid, and all of them look so ugly and gross. Genuinely, these things look absolutely disgusting. The spaceship levels are the definition of repetitive. They go for a new approach in this game. Instead of only staying inside your spaceship, now during certain parts of the level, you'll need to board another spaceship. Like, I thought this was really cool the first time, but after I found out that every single spaceship level plays exactly like this, the magic kind of wears off. Most of the time, you'll have to find a way inside of another spaceship, then land there so you can turn off a bomb switch, then go back to your spaceship so you can use those bombs to destroy something. And that's really it. I like the concept and it reminds me a lot of Battlefront 2, but they do absolutely nothing with it. And every spaceship level does the same thing pretty much every time. There aren't that many of them in this game, but they were always my least favorite level to play. Now the last type of level are the new ground battle mode, and I feel very mixed on these. I think the concept is great, and there are a lot of levels where I enjoy them. The main issue comes from when they have you play them over and over again. The main goal in the mode is to take over an enemy base. You'll always start off with little to no bases and have to work your way up. As you get more bases, you are able to buy more equipment that can help you in the battle. Buying vehicles and armies are important, because sometimes they're the only way to take out a certain enemy's defenses. The objective on how to win can change depending on the level, but most of the time, it's as simple as capturing all of the enemy's bases. I think this mode is so well done and a lot of fun. There are so many different ways you can take out your enemies, like using a tank, an army, or crafting a bomb and launching it. You get so much space to work with, and when you battle another friend, it can make for a really fun and intense battle. I think most of the things in this type of level are really well done, and it's one of my favorite parts about this game. But this game kind of ruins this mode themselves. As I mentioned in one of the stories, you have to play 4 ground battle missions, 3 of them being back to back. But what really just made me so sick of this mode in general is something that you'll have to do for 100%, and I'll get to that later. Now before I move on, I will say the characters have definitely improved since the last LEGO Star Wars game. They all have their own personalities and wacky looking animations. Combat in general just feels a whole lot smoother, and the dual wield extra is so sick. Just sucks it gives everyone the same fighting animation. Also, I love the characters of miniguns. They are so much fun to use, and they feel so overpowered, almost as overpowered as the Rocket Trooper. There are a lot of new features in this game, like being able to cut walls, command troops, and grab enemies. Jedis have a lot more abilities now, which makes them feel far more useful. Commanding a bunch of clones is super cool, especially in the ground battle mode when you have tons of clones. But what I think helps a lot with giving the characters their own personality is the fact that their original voice actors are doing the grunts and mumbles. It's crazy that they were able to do this, and it brings a lot of charm to these already very wacky cutscenes. But overall, I think the levels in this game are just okay. None of them are bad, but most of them just end up being really okay or mediocre. At least they are an improvement over the last 2 LEGO games. But still, why are we getting such downgraded levels in the first place? I am now going to move on to the hub. There are 2 of them in this game, the Resolute and Invisible Hand. Both of these are spaceships. One is for the good guys and the other is for the bad guys. In these hubs, you can do small puzzles to find red bricks, unlock characters just by going up to them, customize a character, or travel around in this small space section. These hubs are okay. Honestly, both of them just feel the same to me. I do like how you have to actually progress to unlock more of the hub, but there is nothing remarkable about them, and it's a huge downgrade when compared to Harry Potter's hub. There are multiple rooms where you can ride vehicles, but I don't know, I just don't have much to say about these hubs. I think they're both really annoying to navigate, everything looks the same, and if you need a certain character, you're gonna have to leave wherever you're doing just to find them. To travel between them, you must travel through space. There's nothing to do in space other than unlocking some gold bricks. You can also change the location of your planet, which doesn't really do much. But yeah, I think the hub world is okay. It's honestly just really boring. I think it's finally time to talk about everything I need for 100% completion. There are 20 levels in this game, and in each level you have to collect 10 mini kits and fill up the stun meter. But once you get a certain amount of gold bricks, you can unlock 2 kinds of bonus levels. And they both have 10 mini kits and a stun meter to fill, meaning there are 220 mini kits to collect. In this hub, you have to find and purchase all 115 characters, all 18 red bricks, and all 55 vehicles and spaceships. Now there are some new things required for 100% as well, like completing all 32 ground assault missions, all 16 space missions, and all 16 bounty hunter missions. For completing any of those, you'll be unlocking gold bricks, and there are 130 of them in total in this game. And that is everything needed for 100%. And I'll start with the levels first. Going back and collecting all the mini kits in the levels was actually more fun than playing through them on story mode. Well, except for the ground battle missions and space levels. Those levels just had a lot of mini kits that were really annoying to find. But in the main levels, there are loads and loads of secret rooms and challenging puzzles. Like this one where you have to play this LEGO Indiana Jones video game, serve people in a bar, or play pool. They went all out on a lot of these, and I enjoyed it a lot. It didn't take long to collect all the mini kits, and for collecting all 10 mini kits in a level, you unlock a new character, which encourages you to try and collect them all. Getting everything in the levels definitely was the highlight when going for 100%. Unfortunately, that was probably the only good part about going for 100%, because this game was way more tedious than the complete saga. So purchasing everything in the hub world was really easy, and everything was really cheap in this game, to the point where I had a ton of extras and still didn't even have the story complete. But some characters or vehicles are very weird to unlock. Like, for the longest time, I had specific characters missing from my character roster, and I still don't know what I did to unlock most of them. They just kind of appeared, but I eventually got everything. Also, bounty hunter missions are in this game, and these were okay. This time they take place in only one room or a small section, but you have way less time, and sometimes it can be very cryptic on what you're supposed to do. Like, I have to shoot this window a couple of times, and then all of a sudden, a character comes out of it. How was I supposed to know that? But none of them were too awful, and I completed them all in like half an hour. Now this is when the game becomes really bullshit. So there are 32 ground assault missions you must play, 16 for each side, and oh my god, these completely ruined the whole game for me. This is when a somewhat fun experience just turned into one of the worst 100% experiences I've ever had for a LEGO game. Sure, I said these ground assault missions were fun, but now I am forced to play 32 of them. This time they're harder though. You start out with absolutely nothing, and the enemies always have loads of stuff. And to make things worse, you are being timed, so if you fail, you have to reset the whole thing again. This was 4 hours of non-stop ground battle missions. Not only does it ruin this game mode for me, but why would you think something that works better as a small game mode would be good content to play 32 damn times? And what made this so much worse was when I was about to get 100%. I was still missing 2 characters, and I had no clue on how to unlock them, so I eventually had to look it up. And it turns out I have to have all 16 planets blue or red all at once to unlock both of these characters. So now I have to go and replay a couple of them to make them all blue, and then after that, replay all 16 of them to make them all red. Why? I've never been this annoyed when 100% completing a LEGO game since LEGO Marvel Superheroes on 3DS. This drove me absolutely crazy, and probably took a total of 6 hours just to do. This game mode started out as something I actually really liked, but if you want to go for 100% completion, get ready to absolutely dread it by the end of it. One of the most tedious and repetitive things I've ever done, honestly, and unfortunately, it doesn't get much better when I move on. There are 16 space missions. To do these, you have to travel to a specific planet, then go out on your spaceship and look for the gold brick, and do an objective. Most of the time, these objectives are destroy things in a certain amount of time. And yeah, this got really repetitive as well. Like, I would have to first fast travel to a certain planet, which took a bit of time, then I would have to get a spaceship, and then find the gold brick to do the challenge. And I had to do this 16 times. Sometimes I wouldn't have the right ship for the objective, so I'd have to go all the way back and get a new one. But there are 2 gold bricks where you have to get in a turret to unlock it. And I didn't know that, so I spent ages trying to figure out why these gold bricks weren't spawning. So again, I eventually had to look another thing up. I hate looking up stuff for 100% completion. It ruins a lot of the fun. But yeah, these were just not fun, and the whole process was really repetitive. While doing all of this, I was unlocking gold bricks, so I basically collected them all without even thinking about it. So I finally have 100% completed LEGO Star Wars 3 after 23 hours. The 100% reward is some spaceship you get after building this golden buildable. And there is a character you can unlock via cheat code, Savage Oppress, which is cool, I guess. But unfortunately, this game is not as good as I remember it. The fact that the story mode and a huge chunk of the content after is just downright not fun in this game really brings it down. After getting 100%, I don't see myself wanting to do it again anytime soon. And at least at the moment of just getting 100%, I don't even think I like this game. It's probably the first proper LEGO game by TT Games that I would call mediocre. At least LEGO Indiana Jones 2 and Harry Potter, I could find a lot of things to love about those games, and I understood why they had the issues they did. But with this game, I really don't understand why they made most of these bad decisions. Sure, most LEGO games are repetitive when going for 100%, but this one is not only just way more repetitive, but also not fun. But I'm just gonna move on, and I don't care, I just don't enjoy LEGO Star Wars 3. LEGO Pirates of the Caribbean released on November 18th, 2010, and is based off the 4 Pirates of the Caribbean films. It was made to tie in with the 4th film, On Stranger Tides. This is another franchise I think just fits so well in the LEGO game formula. It's basically a LEGO pirate video game, but I loved this game as a kid, and it was definitely one of my favorites from this era. The game starts right on the first level, and it's a pretty good level all things considered. You start off playing as Will and Mr. Brown and have to wield a sword, then fight Jack Sparrow. After that, you have to free Jack Sparrow from the prison and make an escape with tons of different puzzles and enemies in your way. Something I noticed straight away was how many different locations there are just in this first level. It really helps this level feel a whole lot bigger when compared to previous LEGO games. And this change stays throughout the whole story mode. I think the story mode overall is just okay. I had fun playing most of it. I just think my biggest issue is just that a lot of the levels feel the same. It's not as bad as LEGO Harry Potter where they kept reusing locations, but there are a lot of levels that just end up feeling the same for me. Like, you'll go through some really fun levels like invading another pirate ship, and then the level right after that is a really boring one that just involves you doing an elaborate puzzle to reflect light to light a campfire. And this happened a couple of times in each story mode. It just feels like to me they were really stretched on what they could turn into a level. There are multiple levels that just involve you going around and finding items the whole time, or slowly moving a raft across while solving small puzzles. And it's really just not all that fun, and honestly wouldn't be that big of a problem if they just didn't happen so often in this game. They may not reuse areas, but the amount of pirate ship levels in this game just gets so tiring after like the 3rd time. Sure, they're all different ships and it's cool exploring them, but they all feel exactly the same. It doesn't help that they all use the same camera angle, and you're most of the time doing the exact same thing as you did on the last pirate ship level. Like, if you showed me a picture of 2 of these levels, I would not be able to tell you what the difference is. They're not bad levels at all, it just happens way too much, so it loses its magic after a while. I promise this is my last complaint about the levels, But why is almost every boss fight exactly the same? You just have to fight the bad guy, defeat his minions, then fight him again. But to be fair, all LEGO games have this issue. I just got really annoyed with it when doing the bonus level. I know I said a lot of bad stuff about the levels, but there's probably just as much good stuff to say about them as well. When a level is good, it's really good. I can still remember a lot of my favorite levels in this game because they were just that great. Like the level where you had to roll around inside giant bone cages. The level was really unique and forced the team to get creative with their puzzles and platforming. It's a great level and I don't think there's been another level like it in LEGO games. But I think my favorite level in this game has to be London Town. The level starts out with Jack and Gibbs defenseless having to fight their way into King's dining room. There's also some really cool platforming and puzzle solving. You have to utilize the weapons on the ground to escape, and it's really cool how they use the chandelier. Then after that, you have to make your way outside by using a cannon to break the window. And now you're outside and have to do lots of platforming through the buildings in London. I love this part so much. It's cool looking down and seeing the busy streets. It just makes it way more intense. It feels like you could fall at any moment. But after that, now you're on a moving carriage and have to fight enemies and make your way across the other carriages. Again, this is just another action-packed moment, and I love it so much. But the level doesn't end there, because now you're in a bar and have to do puzzles while fighting a mini-boss. And after that, the level is over. But it's such an action-packed level, you're constantly doing new things, and in each new area, you're doing a different thing in it. This honestly might be one of my favorite levels from any LEGO game I've ever played. Like I said, when a level hits, it really hits. Which helps you forget about most of the boring levels in this game. I feel like one of the reasons the levels can be really boring is because there isn't a whole lot of abilities in this game. Characters in this game tend to have really mundane abilities, so there isn't really a whole lot to work with. There's only so much you can do with the abilities they have. But since most characters just have one exclusive thing about them, it really holds the levels back. The new abilities that are in this game feel like they are here for the sake of having a new ability rather than figuring out some creative way to use it or to make the game feel unique from other ones. Like Jack is the only one that can zipline on flagpoles. First off, it's basically just a zipline from LEGO Star Wars. Second off, why is Jack the only character that can do that? It's just really dumb. And I feel that way about so many of the abilities in this game. The only new ability I kind of liked was the compass. Jack is the only character with this ability, but in every level at any time, Jack can pull out his compass and look at 8 different items. And I thought this was pretty cool at first, and I liked the idea of having basically 8 new collectibles that you can interact with in every level. But they absolutely run this mechanic into the ground in the story mode. You'll use it about 2 or 3 times in every level. Hell, sometimes you don't even have to use it. It doesn't feel like I'm searching for hidden things throughout the levels. It feels like you shoved in this mechanic to give you one extra step before you solve a puzzle just to give the game a bit more depth. I don't hate this mechanic, but with how little you do in some of these levels, it just really becomes forgettable. Some non-exclusive abilities that were added are barrels and telescopes. The barrels are actually not bad. You just have to find a barrel hidden in the level and then bring it to a hole and roll it to open a door or something. The telescopes are on the opposite side. They're completely pointless. It's literally just following a target for a certain amount of time. If you stop following that target, they'll just go back to whatever they are originally doing. It doesn't really make sense, and it's not a fun mechanic. It just slows the whole game down. I know I have been quite harsh in these levels, but in all honesty, they are still a lot of fun, and leagues better than Harry Potter or Indiana Jones 2. But they just don't leave that much of an impression. Something that they excel at is the visuals. They are great at capturing a specific tone. The lighting and everything just looks great, and a lot of the environments are some of my favorites from any LEGO video game. Even all the same feeling boat and beach environments look absolutely gorgeous. When it comes to all the visuals, everything just feels like a huge step up. The character animations is a huge highlight for me. A lot of the main characters just feel very distinct from one another, from their fighting animations down to their idle animations. Jack Sparrow feels like he's ripped right from the film. I mean, just look at him. Some characters just have the littlest details that add so much. I think the combat in this game is okay. There isn't really a whole lot of variety to it. Pretty much every character uses a sword or a gun, and almost every character has the same fighting animation. Combat also feels really different in this game. Instead of just endlessly hitting your enemy, you'll duel with them. If you stop pressing the attack button, it just ends, and you have to reset the animation. I just don't think it feels that great. It has me approaching every combat scenario exactly the same, just jump slamming at all the enemies to avoid the long fighting animations. Like it feels like you're watching an animation rather than fighting someone. And I have this exact same complaint about the 3DS version of the game. It doesn't feel awful, and honestly it's not that big of a deal, it's just different. The only really cool thing about the characters in this game is that there are some of them that can play music or sing, and they are probably my favorite characters in this whole game. Also, loading screens in this game are a little animation in this storybook-like aesthetic. It's cool and all, but I'm just wondering why? Overall, I think this game's story mode is pretty okay. Nothing too amazing, but nothing awful either. I think I enjoyed it more than LEGO Star Wars 3 Story Mode, but that's only because I like the environments more. A lot of the levels just unfortunately feel the same. The hub world in this game is also just okay. It's the port, and I think the worst part about it is it's just way too small. Just like all of the other hub worlds, this is where you can access all the levels and buy things. It's split into 3 different sections: the beach, the deck, and the bar. There isn't really a ton to do that's outside of the norm other than finding and unlocking red hats, which are just red bricks in this game. I enjoyed finding the red bricks, but there isn't anything really too memorable in this hub. It's basically just like the levels. It's not bad, but it's not great either. Now it's time for me to track down everything I need for 100% completion. Every level has 10 chips in a bottle, which are just mini kits, 8 compass finds, and a stud meter to fill. There are 20 levels in this game, so that means 200 mini kits, 160 compass item, and 20 stud meters to fill. In the hub world, there are 20 bricks to find and collect, and 44 characters to purchase. There are 80 characters in total, and the last thing you'll need for 100% completion is to collect all 85 gold bricks. To make things easier, I'm just going to include the compass items with the mini kits. So that means 360 mini kits. Getting everything into levels was honestly just okay. There wasn't a whole lot of secrets, and there are only a handful of characters that have exclusive abilities that you wouldn't have used while in the story mode. I had fun getting all the mini kits, but because of all the issues I had with the levels in the first place, it just wasn't as fun as previous games. I didn't feel like there's a whole lot of secrets to go and find. I honestly don't even remember much about getting 100% in the game, just because it was all pretty forgettable. There was no memorable puzzles or secret areas, and that's kind of a shame. But at the end of the day, I still had fun doing it. It just feels like it's kind of lacking. Getting True Pirate in every level was really easy because the stud multipliers are stupidly cheap. I had 2 stud multipliers while playing through the story mode, so it wasn't hard at all. Finding all the compass items was honestly just annoying. There is no tracker for them in this game, so each time you enter a new area, you have to check your compass to see if a certain item is there. But sometimes it'll be in a specific location, so if you're not constantly checking your compass, they're very easy to miss. Normally I wouldn't complain about more collectibles in a level, but these are pretty much found in the exact same way in every level, and it's just one more thing I had to constantly keep checking. But I was still able to do everything in free play mode in just one day. I don't know what it is about this game, but it went by so quickly. The longest part was going through the story mode, but after that, you make a lot of progress fast, which can be a good thing. But for me, it just kind of made most things about this game forgettable. I don't have any real strong feelings towards anything in this game, but this game did introduce being able to pull up your character grid whenever you want, which is a huge deal. Anyways, the next thing is getting 100% in the hub, and yes, it was really easy like everything else. I already had so many studs by the time I was finished with everything in the story mode, so buying all the characters wasn't a challenge at all. I did like how you had to do small puzzles to unlock the red bricks. Some of these were even pretty hard to figure out, but there isn't really much I could say about unlocking things here. I have no real strong feelings about any of it, and I just unlocked gold bricks naturally while progressing through the story. Once you have 84 gold bricks, you're able to build the golden structure in the hub, which gives you access to the bonus level, and the bonus level really sucks. I think the concept is really cool. It's supposed to be the ride that the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise is based off of, but how they executed it is just really lame. You just go through different sections and fight a ton of enemies, then move on. It's just so boring and lame, and it takes way too long. This could have been a great idea. But after the bonus level is complete, I have 100% completed LEGO Pirates of the Caribbean. And man, this was such a mid game. I'm honestly so disappointed because I haven't played this game since I was a kid, and it's the only LEGO game based off of pirates, which is a pretty fresh idea compared to all the other stuff they have been releasing. The game doesn't really do much to innovate or stand out. It's just really forgettable. Well, I have nothing else to really say about this game. I mean, you can even see if you look at the time of this video, I had the least to say about this game out of all the games I've talked about today. So it's time to move on to the last game in today's video. LEGO Harry Potter Years 5 through 7 is a sequel to the first LEGO Harry Potter video game. It released on November 11th, 2011, and is based on the last 4 Harry Potter films. And I was insanely hyped for this game as a kid. I have this specific memory of me and my brothers on the PC at my grandma's house. At the time, we kept seeing ads for this gaming rental service called Gamefly. We didn't have a PC at our house, so this was our only time we could access the internet for the longest time. And we decided to go on Gamefly and search LEGO. And there it was. LEGO Harry Potter Years 5 through 7 was on the website. And we could not believe it. The fact that we could see pictures of it and everything blew our minds away. This game looked absolutely gorgeous, like nothing we've ever seen before. And seeing the redesign of the characters got us really excited. Christmas 2011 could not come soon enough. Of course, we asked for LEGO Harry Potter years 5 through 7. This was one of the first times I can remember being excited for a new video game or anything like that. But once we got it, we fell in love with it, and for the longest time, it was one of my favorite LEGO games ever. Now before I start to talk about the actual game, it's important that I talk about the Wii and PC version of the game. The PC version launched with a ton of game-breaking glitches. I can't really find any specifics about how bad it was, but it was bad enough for them to recall the game only 6 days after launch. And still, even to this day, the game just isn't that great on PC. I purchased the game on Steam, and it just stutters way too often. It's probably the most poorly optimized LEGO video game to ever release. Okay, now the Wii version is a similar story to the PC version. Besides, it never got recalled, and you couldn't update games on the Wii. I had the Wii version of the game as a kid, and yes, I did experience a few game-breaking glitches. Near the end of the 6th film, you'll need to talk to Dumbledore before the Horcrux in hand level. But for some reason, you just can't trigger it, and you can't progress the game any further. I'm not sure what the chances of this are happening, but I experienced this as a kid, and it really frustrated me. You can find tons of online forums from back in the day of people complaining about the Wii version of the game. Another common issue was whenever you got rid of a fire, the game would just crash. A lot of people say to fix the issue, you have to turn your Wii audio settings to mono, change the screen aspect ratio to 480, turn the aspect ratio to 4:3, and play the game slowly. Yes, I saw this response multiple times in online forums, and at that point, it would just be easier to play a different game. I mean, looking at the Wii version of the game, it just looks rough. But as a kid, I really didn't mind all of that stuff, and I did eventually start a new game and was able to beat it. For some reason in 2016, TT Games released both LEGO Harry Potter games exclusively for the PS4, in a bundle called the LEGO Harry Potter Collection. It would later release on everything else in 2018, except for the PC, so I'll be playing the game on the PS4 instead of the PC like I usually do. And yes, for all those people that love the platinum hunting, I will be getting the platinum as well because you basically get it while getting 100%. But let's finally start the game. Just like the first game, the story will progress through the levels and a hub. I will be reviewing these things separately, but also talk about how well they work together. The levels in this game are pretty good. Not amazing, but they're a huge improvement over the last LEGO Harry Potter game. My biggest complaints about the last LEGO Harry Potter game was the constant reuse of the same settings and the new mechanics not being utilized to their fullest, and holding the gameplay back. And I think they improved on both of these. The levels this time around barely reuse areas. I don't think a single level reuses an area from the hub. This time, most levels are much longer, and you'll go through multiple locations. Like the first level has you starting out on a playground, flying through the River Thames. I probably pronounced that really incorrectly, so I'm sorry for any British fans. Crash landing at a park, and going through the Ministry of Magic. That's 4 different locations, all with engaging puzzles and fun level design. It's already way better than the first game, where some levels would just be taking place in a bathroom, and have you lifting up objects at a boss until it ends. This just makes every level feel so massive and way more engaging. It also helps with the flow and pacing of the story. But something else that's important to making sure the levels are engaging is the mechanics, and how well they're utilized in the levels. And I do think they are better in this game. Pretty much all the mechanics from the last game carry over to this game, and they are utilized a lot better here. Instead of just zapping random objects until something happens, you are now tasked with using your spells and abilities to progress through the level. Like you might be trying to use multiple abilities to build this machine to put out a fire, or using all of your abilities to read gravestones. And stuff like this really helps flesh out the levels a lot more, and makes them feel far more interactive and interesting. Just the creativity in some of the puzzles make them far more interesting than any of the levels from 1 through 4. Instead of having mandrakes, you now have specter specs, which allow you to see hidden LEGO objects. Spells like Ridiculousness and Amobus are replaced with Augmente, Defendo, and Focus. One of my complaints about the first game was you had to have a certain spell equipped to build and lift LEGO objects. But now you can lift things up and build things no matter what spell is equipped. I think these new spells are all much better than the ones that they replaced. Defendo is probably my favorite out of the 3 because it's used way more often than the other spells, and it's pretty cool being able to slice through LEGO bricks. Augmente is really annoying to use, and it just feels like an uncreative pick. Focus is probably the worst out of all of these new spells. It's exclusive to Harry Potter and some other characters, and is only used in 2 levels, and very rarely in free play. The new mechanics in this game are much better than the ones from the first game. There are character exclusive ones like Hermione's bag or Ron's Deluminator. And these characters don't get these abilities until later throughout the story, which is cool actually seeing these characters change throughout the story and gain new abilities. The characters in this game are a bit better than the last game, but not by much. A lot of them have exclusive abilities, but that's only really the main characters. There are a lot of characters that all just seem like filler, and even some characters that you'll only be able to play as once. all my complaints about the characters from 1 through 4 carry over to here. It's only a bit better because there are some new exclusive abilities. Oh, and because the characters are now redesigned and don't look disgusting. One of the biggest new features in this game is the new dueling sections. These become very prominent during the latter half of the game. Every boss fight is now replaced with a duel, and it kind of sucks because they could have done some creative ones. But you just have to switch your spell to the same one as your opponent, and then button mash to beat them. It's not all that fun, and it gets annoying near the end where you have to do it so much. One thing that still even impresses me to this day is how visually gorgeous this game is. Like, looking at this game in 1 through 4 is like night and day, but I think this is the reason why the game runs so bad on PC, because of all the crazy new lighting effects. Even when playing it on PS4, the game is locked at 30 FPS, and can sometimes dip below that during certain sections. I think they went a little too crazy in all the lighting effects, but because of that, it is one of the best looking LEGO video games even to this day. Also, for some reason, they're still using the puppet show storybook loading screens like Pirates of the Caribbean. It doesn't really matter, but like, why is this the aesthetic you're choosing for a LEGO game? It's so out of place. Anyways, because of all the improvements, it just makes the story mode so much better than the first game. I enjoyed pretty much every level. This game probably has one of the most experimental levels ever in a LEGO game. The level Love Good Lunacy has this very cool section where you play through the story of the three brothers, which I found really boring as a kid, but these days I respect the level a lot for how unique it is. The whole level is a side scroller and has this very beautiful pop-up book aesthetic. You play as three brothers and all have different abilities. One can destroy gold LEGO objects, one can control his dead fiancé, and the last one can use the invisibility cloak. The level is very simple, but it's just such a cool and unique experience that I really love. This level also introduces you to probably the creepiest character in a LEGO game. And in what other LEGO game can you play as Ghost Fiancé? But overall, I really had a great time with the story mode, and out of all the games from today's video, it probably is my favorite. And it only gets better because of the hub world. The hub world is so much better than the one in 1 through 4. Like, in every aspect. It's a lot bigger. The story segments are better, and the school is constantly changing. Instead of being stuck at Hogwarts, you can now go to Hogsmeade Station, Platform 9 3/4, London, Hogsmeade, and the forest from the Deathly Hallows, and so much more. These locations just help the game feel so fresh, and help flesh out the story. Like at the beginning of Year 5, you have to make your way through Hogwarts, or in Year 8, you're living in the woods. And similar to the last game, depending on what year you're on, the hub world will be different. Like in Year 5, the Weasley shop isn't opened, but in later years it will be. Or how Hogwarts becomes empty and under attack throughout the Deathly Hallows. There are tons and tons of things changing about every part of the hub, and it really helps you feel like you're going through the story with these characters. Like, they didn't have to make London rainy and stormy for one mission, but they did that, and it's just so cool. This is one of my favorite parts in the whole game, and it's something that I feel like a lot of modern games miss the mark on. The whole school feels so alive, and having this ever-changing hub world with so many events going on, and things to find just help expand on it. And it's stuff like this that easily make it better than a 3D open world hub like the modern LEGO games. The events and classes are so much better in this game. The classes are pretty much exactly the same as the last game, but the events are a lot better. Some of them are even set in areas of the game you'll never be able to go back to, and basically feel like levels that you can't replay. I love the events a lot because it actually gives you things to do in the hub world, and helps you progress the story in a natural way without relying on cutscenes. It's a very creative thing to do, and it's something I don't see happen often enough in modern LEGO video games. But because of the great levels and amazing free roam, it makes the story mode in this game a really great time. I don't really have very many complaints about it, to be honest. They pretty much address most of the issues I had with the first game. But now it's time to track down everything needed for 100% completion. There are 24 levels in this game, and each level has 4 crest pieces, 3 characters, a student in peril, and a stud meter to fill. There are also characters, students in peril, gold bricks, and levels to find in the hub world, which totals to 96 mini-kits, 200 characters, 20 red bricks, 20 students in peril, 200 gold bricks, and 24 stud meters to fill. You will also have to purchase every single character, red brick, and spell. And the last thing you have to do for 100% is complete the bonus level you get after beating the story mode. Collecting everything in the levels was pretty fun. There are lots of hidden locations, but it all went by really quickly. It didn't just depend on breaking a certain object a certain number of times, and actually had some cool and unique puzzles. Just collecting all of the collectibles was a relaxing and satisfying experience that I really enjoyed. I can say the same thing of getting 100% in the hub world. It's just a fun and chill experience. I loved unlocking modes of the hub world and interacting with everything. You can also check what your progress is in a certain section by going over to the ghost, which is a really nice addition. Collecting everything in the hub world was probably my favorite part about going for 100%. Buying everything in the shop was also really easy, because all of the stud multipliers were really cheap, and you can unlock them pretty early on. I know it was really annoying purchasing characters in LEGO Harry Potter Years 1 through 4, but they somehow made it better and worse in 5 through 7. Now you can see all the characters all at once. But this time, they stacked the different variations of characters on top of each other, so it just has you waiting ages to purchase a character. And just having everything blinking constantly makes it really annoying trying to track down which characters you have purchased. The bonus level in the game is okay. I do like how you can interact with LEGO sets that are releasing at the time of this game's release, but it's just way too long, and it can be a bit confusing on what you're supposed to do. But after that, I have 100% completed LEGO Harry Potter Years 5 through 7. And honestly, it was such an easy game to 100%, and it's probably the best game in today's video. I had a really fun time. It's crazy how much it improved on 1 through 4, but it's time to wrap things up here because I'm just so tired. I have now 100% completed 11 LEGO video games. I don't know what it is, but this era of LEGO games is just so uninteresting when compared to the others. Things aren't really new and exciting like the first 6 games, but they're also not amazing and groundbreaking like the games right after these ones. All of them were still good games, and I enjoyed my time with every single one of them, but I feel like a lot of them just don't have the same charm as the original games did. Things aren't new anymore, and at this point this formula is getting pretty old. And it starts to make sense when you realize they released 11 LEGO games in the span of 6 years. I feel like a lot of these games try to innovate in weird ways, but they would never fully commit to it, and they're gonna have to change something if they want to continue to show their worth. I now have 16 games left, and so far in these games I've collected 2,088 mini kits, 215 red bricks, 1,209 characters, 874 gold bricks, and completed 323 levels. Anyways, if you're looking forward for the rest of the series, I would consider subscribing or liking the video, and also let me know your thoughts on these games. But thank you so much for watching.